What would you do if a stranger in an airport lounge turned your entire world upside down and then destroyed it? Tonight, I'm about to share a story that will make you question everything you think you know about love, power, and the lengths people will go to protect their secrets. This isn't just another crime story. This is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators wear designer clothes and speak in soft voices. Have you ever met someone who seemed too good to be true? Someone whose charm felt almost magnetic, pulling you into their world before you realized you were trapped? Do you know someone who's fallen for someone completely out of their league? Someone who ignored every warning sign because the fantasy was too intoxicating to abandon? Mari Cruz thought she had it all figured out. A successful airline supervisor, a stable marriage, a comfortable life split between Manila and Dubai. She was smart, experienced, and confident in her ability to handle any situation that came her way. But on one humid June evening in 2015, a chance encounter with a mysterious stranger would lead her down a path that ended in betrayal, murder, and an international cover-up that reached the highest levels of government. Here's what's about to shock you. The man she fell for wasn't just wealthy, he was royalty. And when their secret relationship threatened to expose royal scandals worth billions, Mari became a liability that needed to be eliminated. But here's the twist that will leave you speechless. Mari knew she was in danger. She left behind evidence that would eventually bring down an entire conspiracy, even though it couldn't save her life. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. If you're someone who appreciates real stories about real people who deserved better, but you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what exactly are you waiting for? These stories take weeks of research, and frankly, it hurts when people watch without subscribing. Takes 2 seconds, costs you nothing, and helps me continue exposing the truth about cases like Mari's that powerful people want you to forget. Also, download your ebook titled 50 Signs of a Toxic Relationship and How to Protect Yourself by clicking the link in the pinned comment. The question isn't just who killed Mari Cruz. It's how far the powerful will go to bury their secrets. And trust me, you're not ready for this answer. Dubai International Airport, June 2015. Mari Cruz was exhausted after a 14-hour shift, looking forward to her crew rest before the Manila turnaround. She'd grabbed a coffee in the first-class lounge when a voice behind her said, "Excuse me, you dropped this." She turned to find a man holding her boarding pass, tall, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He wore simple jeans and a white linen shirt, nothing flashy. No entourage, no bodyguards, no obvious signs of wealth. Just a regular passenger who'd done her a favor. "Thank you," Mari said, genuinely grateful. "I would have been in serious trouble without that." "No problem at all. I'm Zahir, by the way." That's it. Just Zahir. No last name, no titles, no hint that she was speaking to His Highness Prince Zahir bin Masoud Al Harith, third nephew of the Emir of Karif, heir to oil wealth measured in billions. What happened next was so ordinary, so innocent, that it makes what comes later even more devastating. They started talking about art. Zahir mentioned he'd heard wonderful things about Filipino abstract painters, particularly Jose Joya. He spoke with genuine enthusiasm about wanting to visit galleries in Manila, asking if she knew any good ones. Mari was charmed. Here was this well-traveled, cultured man who actually knew Filipino art history. He wasn't hitting on her. He seemed genuinely interested in her insights about her home country. When he asked if she might show him some galleries during her next Manila layover, it felt like helping out a friendly tourist, nothing more. The conversation lasted 42 minutes. Security footage would later show them laughing together, completely relaxed, two strangers who'd found common ground. When Mari's flight was called, Zahir shook her hand and said he hoped they'd run into each other again. Walking to her gate, Mari felt good about the encounter. She'd met an interesting person, had a pleasant conversation, and maybe made a new friend. She had no idea she'd just sealed her fate. What Mari couldn't have known was that Zahir had already researched her. He knew her full name, her work schedule, her family situation. He knew her husband was at sea for 9-month contracts. He knew she was vulnerable to attention from someone who seemed to value her mind as much as her beauty. Drop in the comments. Have you ever been completely fooled by someone's first impression? Someone who turned out to be nothing like what they seemed? Because Mari's story is about to show you exactly how dangerous those deceptions can be. 3 weeks later, Mari received a message that would change everything. A simple text: "Gallery tour still available? Zahir." She'd almost forgotten about the airport encounter, but something about his message made her smile. She was scheduled for a Manila layover the following week. They met at the Ayala Museum. Zahir arrived in a black sedan, expensive but not ostentatious. He wore a simple polo shirt and seemed genuinely excited about the art. For 2 hours, they walked through galleries, discussing technique and cultural influences. Mari found herself genuinely enjoying his company. He listened when she spoke, asked thoughtful questions, and treated her like an intellectual equal. Over coffee afterwards, Zahir made a confession that should have been a red flag. "I haven't been completely honest about who I am," he said quietly. "My family has significant business interests in the Gulf region. I prefer to keep a low profile when I travel." Mari assumed he meant oil money. Dubai was full of wealthy businessmen's sons. She didn't press for details. In hindsight, this was exactly what he was counting on. The relationship escalated quickly. Within 2 months, Zahir's private Gulfstream, registered under the alias Falcon 19, made its first unscheduled trip to Manila. No embassy protocol, no official logs. Just a prince flying halfway around the world to spend 3 days with a woman he was falling dangerously in love with. Mari found herself living a double life that felt like a movie. Zahir would fly her to boutique hotels in Bonifacio Global City, 5-star resorts in Tagaytay, private beaches where they could disappear completely. He showered her with gifts. Not flashy jewelry that would raise questions, but thoughtful tokens that spoke to their shared interests. Art books, vintage Filipino stamps, a handwritten first edition of Jose Rizal's poetry. But it was the rose gold Patek Philippe watch that became a problem. Mari had never owned anything so expensive in her life, retail value close to $80,000. When friends at work noticed, she panicked and claimed it was a company performance bonus. The lie came so easily it scared her. Lorenzo, still at sea, accepted every explanation she offered. New watch? Company bonus. Extended layovers in Manila? Route changes. The extra money in their joint account? Overtime pay. He trusted his wife completely, and Mari hated herself for taking advantage of that trust. Here's something that's going to make you uncomfortable about this story. Mari wasn't just a victim. She was an active participant in a deception that was destroying her marriage. But before you judge her too harshly, ask yourself this. Have you ever been so intoxicated by someone's attention that you compromised your own values? Have you ever lied to people you loved to protect a relationship that felt too good to give up? And honestly, if you're watching this story but you haven't subscribed to this channel, you're doing exactly what Mari did, taking something valuable without giving anything back. At least Mari eventually paid a price for her choices. What's your excuse? Hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to get much darker, and you don't want to miss what happens when fairy tales collide with reality. Late 2016. Mari should have seen the cracks forming, but love has a way of making us blind to danger. It started with small changes in Zahir's behavior. Phone calls that ended abruptly when she entered the room. Longer gaps between his visits to Manila. When she asked about it, he'd deflect with expensive gifts and romantic gestures that made her forget her concerns. The truth was much more complicated. Back in Karif, palace advisors were pressuring Zahir about his future. His father expected him to marry his cousin from Doha, a strategic alliance that would cement a multi-billion-dollar natural gas deal between their families. The engagement had been discussed since childhood, and now it was becoming inevitable. But Zahir wasn't ready to give up his secret life with Mari. The relationship had evolved from curiosity to obsession. Here was a woman who challenged him intellectually, who didn't know his royal status when she fell for him, who represented freedom from the suffocating protocols of palace life. For the first time in his privileged existence, he felt like a real person instead of a political asset. Mari sensed something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Zahir seemed increasingly possessive, asking detailed questions about her work schedule, her colleagues, even her conversations with Lorenzo during their brief phone calls. When she mentioned grabbing drinks with her crew after flights, his jaw would tighten in a way that made her uncomfortable. The breaking point came during a WhatsApp conversation with her sister Bianca that would later become crucial evidence. Mari typed the words that revealed how trapped she felt. "I want out, but I'm scared of his temper. He isn't violent, but when he's angry his voice goes flat, like he's talking to staff, not to me." Bianca's response was immediate. "Then end it. You have Lorenzo, you have a good life. This guy sounds dangerous." Mari's reply was chilling in its honesty. "It's not that simple. He knows things about my schedule, my routes, everything. And he's not just rich, he's connected. I'm in too deep." That message, sent at 11:47 p.m. Manila time on January 15, 2017, was the last time Mari would admit her fears to anyone. "Here's what I need you to think about. Have you ever ignored red flags because you were in too deep? Have you ever stayed in a situation that felt dangerous because leaving seemed more terrifying than staying?" Mari's instincts were screaming at her to run, but she ignored them because the alternative felt impossible. And if you're ignoring the red flags about subscribing to this channel, like the fact that you're getting incredible content for free while giving nothing back, then you're making the same mistake Mari made. Don't wait until it's too late. Subscribe now, because what happens next will show you exactly why Mari's fears were justified. The clock was running out, and Mari had no idea how little time she had left. February 2, 2017. Mari's roster showed flight KRF 214, Dubai to Kharif City. She normally avoided this route because it meant serving Kharif royalty directly, and palace protocol demanded perfection she found exhausting. But the scheduling department was short-staffed, and Mari needed the overtime pay. She was completing pre-flight checks when the gate agent approached with a passenger manifest change. "VIP boarding in 5 minutes, he said quietly. "Full discretion required." Mari's blood went cold when she saw Zahir walk through the jet bridge. He moved with 2 bodyguards she'd never seen before, professional, stone-faced men who screamed security detail. But what caught her attention was the single item Zahir carried. A leather briefcase that airport scanners had logged as containing medical supplies. Medical supplies. On a 6-hour flight, Mari's training kicked in. She knew exactly what legitimate medical transport looked like, and this wasn't it. Zahir nodded at her professionally as he took his seat in 1A. No smile, no acknowledgement of their relationship. Just the cold courtesy of a royal passenger toward airline staff. The message was clear. Today, she wasn't his secret lover. She was just the help. 20 minutes into the flight, he pressed the call button. When Mari approached, he requested herbal tea, their old signal for privacy. She prepared the service, but when she leaned over to place his cup, his hand closed around her wrist. "We need to talk," he whispered. "After service is complete." For the next 4 hours, they spoke in hushed tones in the rear galley. Other crew members later described Mari as visibly distressed during this conversation, though none could hear what was being said. Flight attendant Nurjavid would later testify that Mari appeared to be arguing with the prince, shaking her head repeatedly while he spoke in increasingly sharp whispers. Then came the moment that sealed Mari's fate. Zahir pressed a khaki envelope into her hands. "This makes everything clean," he said. "No loose ends, no complications. You sign, you take the money, and we both move on with our lives." Mari opened the envelope right there in the galley. Inside, a first-class ticket back to Manila, a notarized non-disclosure agreement, and $25,000 in cash. The NDA was comprehensive. She could never speak about their relationship, never contact him again, never even acknowledge they'd met. "I won't sign this," Mari said, her voice barely audible over the engine noise. Zahir's expression changed. The charm vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "You don't understand. This isn't a request." "I understand perfectly," Mari replied, sliding the envelope into her blazer pocket. "But I'm not signing away my right to speak the truth." The conversation ended there. For the remainder of the flight, Zahir stared out his window while Mari completed her duties with shaking hands. She knew she'd crossed a line, but she couldn't have known how fatal that decision would be. Landing in Kharif City at 22:45 local time, CCTV captured Mari disembarking with her crew and boarding the shuttle to their layover hotel. But she never arrived at the hotel. Somewhere between the airport and downtown Kharif City, Mari Cruz disappeared. The last confirmed footage of her alive comes from a traffic camera on the coastal highway at 23:18. She sits in the back seat of a black Lexus, clearly visible through the rear window. Beside her, Prince Zahir. In the front, bodyguard Samir Khalib and driver Yaqub. The car heads south toward Ras Al Bayd Desert, where the royal family owns hunting lodges. Here's what you need to understand about power. When someone tells you that you don't have a choice, believe them. Mari thought her refusal to sign that NDA was brave. In reality, it was a death sentence. And if you think you can just watch this content without subscribing and somehow avoid the consequences, you're wrong. This story gets darker from here, and frankly, if you can't even hit a subscribe button after hearing about Mari's courage, what does that say about you? What happened in that desert changed everything we thought we knew about this case. The Lexus traveled south for 37 minutes, deep into the Ras Al Bayd Desert where cell towers are sparse and witnesses don't exist. Mari knew she was in trouble, but she had one advantage Zahir didn't know about: the micro camera she'd clipped inside her uniform jacket. As a senior flight attendant, Mari carried safety recording equipment for incident reports. But on this night, that tiny device became her final testimony. The footage recovered months later revealed a conversation that will haunt you. In the grainy night vision, you can see Mari's hands trembling as she adjusts the camera on the car's armrest. Her voice is barely a whisper. "If they find me, tell Lorenzo I tried." The audio picks up Zahir's voice, cold and methodical. "You're going to sign that agreement, Mari. Tonight. Right now." "No," she responds, her voice stronger than you'd expect from someone in her position. "I won't be silenced." "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Zahir continues. "My family has invested too much in maintaining our reputation. You're a liability we can't afford." The footage shows Mari reaching for the door handle, but it won't budge. The car has child safety locks activated. She's trapped. "Let me out," Mari demands. "I just want to go home to my husband." That's when Zahir's composure cracks completely. The mention of Lorenzo, the reminder that Mari belongs to someone else, triggers something violent in him. "Your husband," he spits. "Do you think he'd still want you if he knew what you've been doing? If he saw the photos I have?" "What photos?" Mari asks, but you can hear the fear creeping into her voice. "Insurance," Zahir replies. "From our time together. Very intimate insurance." Mari realizes she's been set up from the beginning. Every romantic getaway, every private moment, it was all being documented. Zahir hadn't just been controlling their relationship, he'd been building leverage against her. The struggle begins when Mari lunges for the door again. You can hear Samir, the bodyguard, say, "Sir, we need to handle this quickly." The driver, Yaqub, pulls over and engages the parking brake. What follows is the most chilling audio ever captured in a true crime case. Zahir's voice goes deadly calm. "I gave you a chance to do this the easy way." There's shuffling, a muffled scream, then Mari gasping for breath. "You made this choice, not me." The camera captures shadows moving violently across the cabin. Mari fights back. You can hear her wedding ring scratching against the leather seats as she claws for freedom. But she's outnumbered 3-1. "Please," Mari whispers, her voice barely audible. "I have a family. I have people who love me." "You should have thought about that before you refused to cooperate," Zahir responds. The final moments are almost too disturbing to describe. The audio captures the sound of Mari's airway being compressed, her desperate attempts to breathe, then silence. The timestamp shows 23:51. At 23:54, you can hear Yaqub say, "It's done." Samir responds, "Get the accelerant from the trunk." The camera tumbles to the floor as they drag Mari's body, recording only darkness and the sound of diesel fuel being poured over the upholstery. The final image before the recording stops is headlights from another vehicle approaching, Zahir's backup SUV. Comment justice if you're still watching at this point, because what comes next will show you how far powerful people will go to cover up their crimes. At 4:40 a.m., Kharif City Civil Defense received an urgent call about a vehicle fire on the desert highway. The caller reported seeing flames from mile 46, near the old oil survey roads. First responders arrived to find a black Lexus fully engulfed, doors secured shut with industrial zip ties. The scene was staged to look like a tragic accident. A single body lay across the back seat, burned beyond immediate recognition. The initial report classified it as a possible collision with subsequent fire damage. Just another unfortunate road incident in a country where desert driving claims lives regularly. But when investigators ran the vehicle identification number, everything changed. The Lexus belonged to the Royal Fleet. Within hours, the file was marked National Security Sensitive, effectively freezing the investigation for 8 crucial days. During those 8 days, evidence disappeared. Security footage from the highway mysteriously corrupted. Witness statements were classified. The medical examiner was instructed to delay the autopsy pending additional authorization from palace security. When the autopsy finally occurred, the findings were explosive. Mari's hyoid bone showed clear fracture patterns consistent with manual strangulation. 2 ribs were broken after death, suggesting her body had been dragged. Most damning of all, negligible soot in her respiratory system proved she was already dead when the fire started. The cover-up extended beyond the crime scene. Bodyguard Samir Khalib suddenly developed a convenient illness that placed him on medical leave the night Mari died. His timesheet was signed retroactively, backdated to show he was never in the Royal Motor Pool. Driver Yaqub received an emergency visa to Geneva for family medical treatment and vanished within 48 hours of the discovery. Zahir himself was nowhere to be found. Palace sources claimed he was attending a private spiritual retreat at an undisclosed location. Meanwhile, Swiss immigration records showed a private jet registered to a Kharif shell company landing in Geneva the morning after Mari's body was discovered. The official statement released by Kharif's Ministry of Interior was a masterclass in bureaucratic minimalism. A foreign national perished in a vehicular fire on Highway 7. Preliminary investigation suggests no foul play. The matter is considered resolved. No name, no nationality mentioned, no autopsy details, no investigation timeline. Just a few sentences designed to bury Mari Cruz in paperwork and governmental silence. But they underestimated the power of social media and overseas Filipino workers who refused to let their own disappear quietly. An expat nurse named Farha, working at the hospital where Mari's body was processed, took a blurred photograph of the morgue log with her phone. The entry was devastating. Female, mid-30s, Philippine national, cause of death, ligature asphyxia. When Farha uploaded that image to a closed Facebook group for Filipino overseas workers, it exploded across social platforms within hours. Screenshots reached GMA News in Manila, which ran the headline that changed everything. OFW nurse claims Filipina crew death covered up in Gulf state. You know what's really disturbing about this cover-up? These people had unlimited resources, government connections, and international influence, and they still couldn't keep the truth buried. Yet some of you watching this incredible investigation can't even manage to hit a subscribe button. Mari died fighting for the truth, and you can't even support the people telling her story? Within 24 hours, #JusticeForMari was trending across Southeast Asia. Filipino overseas workers from Dubai to London shared Farha's morgue photo, demanding answers from their governments. The image quality was poor, but the words ligature asphyxia were clear enough to destroy the official vehicular accident narrative. The Kharif government found themselves in an impossible position. Ignore the social media storm and risk a diplomatic crisis with the Philippines, a country that supplies hundreds of thousands of workers to the Gulf region, or investigate properly and risk exposing royal family involvement in murder. Under mounting pressure, Sharif agreed to allow 2 Philippine National Bureau of Investigation agents to observe a reopened inquiry. The catch: they had to sign confidentiality agreements that essentially made them witnesses to a performance, not a real investigation. Inside the palace, family factions were at war. Crown Prince Hamid, the emir's reformist son, feared that covering up a murder would permanently damage Sharif's international reputation. He quietly supported full transparency, even if it meant prosecuting his own cousin. Conservative uncles pushed back hard, arguing that arresting Prince Zahir would embolden Republican movements across the region. Royal families had survived for centuries by protecting each other, they argued. One dead Filipino wasn't worth destabilizing the entire monarchy. While politicians fought, forensic technicians made the discovery that changed everything. During the re-examination of Mari's uniform jacket, a technician found something extraordinary sewn into the interior lining: a 32-gigabyte micro SD card, the type used in professional body cameras. Mari had hidden it so carefully that even the fire damage hadn't destroyed it completely. The data recovery process took 3 weeks. What they found was 12 video clips filmed the night Mari died, including the horrifying final conversation we discussed earlier. But there was more footage from their previous meetings, documentation of threats Zahir had made, even recordings of him discussing how to handle the Mari problem with his security team. Mari had been building a case against her killer, documenting evidence of his controlling behavior and increasingly violent threats. She knew she was in danger, and she'd prepared for the possibility that she might not survive to tell her story. The leaked excerpts ignited international outrage. Human rights organizations demanded justice. The Philippine government threatened to suspend worker deployments to Sharif, which would have devastated the country's service industry. European Union representatives hinted at sanctions if the case wasn't properly prosecuted. Under this pressure, Sharif issued an arrest warrant for Yaqub, the missing driver who had fled to Geneva. Interpol detained him 3 months later in a Paris cafe, counting money from a suspicious bank account. Offered a choice between life imprisonment and cooperation, Yaqub chose to become a crown witness. His testimony revealed a premeditated plan to silence a threat to royal honor. According to his statement, Zahir had ordered Mari's elimination after she refused to sign the non-disclosure agreement, viewing her defiance as both personal betrayal and political danger. Yaqub's account was chilling in its detail. Zahir had planned to stage Mari's death as a suicide, claiming she was overwhelmed by guilt over her affair. When that seemed too complex, they settled on the car fire, believing desert conditions would destroy any evidence. They never counted on Mari's hidden camera or the determination of Filipino workers who refused to let their sister disappear silently. Here's my final subscription appeal to you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Mari Cruz died because she stood up to power. She documented evidence, fought back, and refused to be silenced even when it cost her everything. The least you can do is hit that subscribe button to honor her memory and support channels that tell these stories. Seriously, what excuse do you have? Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, whether you're in Manila, Dubai, New York, or anywhere else, because Mari's story belongs to the whole world, not just the people trying to bury it. Justice was coming, but it wouldn't look like anything Mari's family had hoped for. The trial that followed was justice in name only. Held in a marble-lined security court closed to foreign media, the proceedings lasted exactly 7 days. International observers from Human Rights Watch sat silently in the back rows, forbidden from speaking or recording. The message was clear. This was theater, not true accountability. Yaqub, the driver, detailed everything. How Zahir had planned Mari's murder for weeks after she refused the NDA. How they'd used royal security equipment, those industrial zip ties, to stage the scene. How Zahir personally supervised the burning, staying until he was certain no evidence remained. The prince told us Mari had become a security risk, Yaqub testified. He said she knew too much about royal business operations and could embarrass the family internationally. When she wouldn't take the money and disappear, he said we had no choice. The prosecutor requested the death penalty for all 3 defendants. The evidence was overwhelming. Mari's recorded testimony, forensic proof of murder, documented premeditation, international witness testimony. Any legitimate court would have convicted within hours. But this wasn't a legitimate court. The verdict revealed everything wrong with justice when wealth and power are involved. Yaqub received 20 years, the fall guy taking full responsibility. Samir got 15 years for accessory after the fact, though his role in the actual murder was undisputed. Prince Zahir? Travel restrictions pending psychiatric evaluation. Translation: exile to a Swiss villa with diplomatic immunity, round-the-clock security, and a trust fund that ensures he'll never face real consequences. The court ruled that his diminished mental state due to cultural pressures made him unfit for traditional prosecution. Mari's family watched this mockery from the gallery, knowing they'd never see real justice. Back in Manila, Lorenzo buried an urn that Karif insisted contained Mari's ashes. Independent DNA analysis later confirmed the remains were genuine, but that small victory felt hollow against the larger injustice. The airline quietly paid the crew's family 3.2 million pesos ex gratia, about $64,000, while denying any liability or admitting wrongdoing. Their lawyers made it clear: accept the settlement or get nothing at all. Lorenzo refused to be silenced. He filed wrongful death suits in 3 countries where Karif owned property. The cases dragged through courts for years, blocked by sovereign immunity claims and diplomatic pressures. His lawyer bills exceeded the airline settlement, but he continued fighting. Mari documented the truth because she believed justice would eventually come. Lorenzo told reporters outside a London courthouse, "I won't stop until someone acknowledges what really happened to my wife." 5 years later, he's still waiting. Here's what I want you to think about regarding justice. Mari did everything right. She gathered evidence. She fought back. She refused to be silenced. Her killers confessed on camera. The evidence was undeniable. And still, real justice never came. What does that tell you about the world we live in? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this story isn't over yet. Mari Cruz has become more than a victim. She's become a symbol. Today, Prince Zahir lives freely in a lakeside Geneva villa, protected by diplomatic immunity and family wealth. He owns a 40% stake in the very airline that once employed Mari, a final insult that ensures he profits from her industry even in death. Meanwhile, Lorenzo continues his legal battles with dwindling resources and fading hope. But Mari's real victory isn't in the courts. It's in the conversations her story started. Pre-departure seminars for Filipino overseas workers now include Mari's case as a cautionary tale. Young women learn to recognize the warning signs she missed: excessive secrecy, isolation from support systems, relationships built on power imbalances rather than genuine equality. Every July, on Mari's birthday, her sister Bianca posts the same message. She loved without fear, and they feared that love. The post gets a few dozen likes before disappearing into social media algorithms, but it keeps Mari's memory alive for those who matter. Here's what Mari's story teaches us about modern power. Wealth and royal blood can delay justice, but they can't eliminate truth forever. Mari's hidden camera footage continues circulating, reminding the world that even princes can be murderers. Her refusal to sign that NDA, the decision that cost her life, ultimately became the evidence that exposed her killer. The most important lesson? Trust your instincts when someone seems too good to be true. Real love doesn't require secrecy, NDAs, or isolating you from family. If someone's attention comes with conditions that make you uncomfortable, walk away. Mari ignored those red flags because the fantasy felt too good to abandon, and it cost her everything. For true crime enthusiasts, Mari's case represents how modern monarchies weaponize both money and silence. There was no random street crime here, just calculated elimination disguised as romance, then covered up with diplomatic immunity and bureaucratic paperwork. Thank you for watching Mari's story to the end. Her memory deserves witnesses, and you've become part of keeping her truth alive. If the story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notification bells. These investigations take weeks of research, and your support helps us continue exposing cases that powerful people want forgotten. Mari Cruz refused to be silenced in life, and her story continues speaking truth even in death. Sometimes, That's the only justice victims get. But it's more powerful than any court verdict money can buy.